for all that, I think that the technology, people have been wowed by AI, but highlighting all of the hallucinations that, like it can do, I think what it's done is put a focus on data and the need for there to be really strong, solid data. And I feel like to some extent, I can't be the facilitator in this conversation without asking you what your thoughts are on, where we're going with AI in terms of like applying these new AI technologies to record linkage.
Well, I can.
Because you both have our
I'll let the
graphs with
computer
AI.
scientist talk first.
I think that's a very difficult question, and I'm a computer scientist. I love all the new methods and interesting. I think we love reading new papers. I think it's great. But I would take a step back and first I would ask how do you define AI? Because I think maybe that's an important thing, and I don't know if maybe it's something for the conference in 2 years. Maybe we can have a panel or a session to actually discuss as a community what does it mean, because we know that it's the new shiny thing, but I would argue that people in the data linkage space that have been using probabilistic record linkage and machine learning, we've been doing AI for 20 years. So it's not that we're just starting to do AI. Machine learning, it is a subset of AI. I think it's important to establish that, and I have this discussion even with my graduate students, because sometimes we're just saying we're using AI because that's the term, but well, let's just talk about what are the subdomains of AI and what does that mean and what are you exactly referring to. So I think we've already been including or using AI for data linkage for a couple of decades now. If we're talking about some of the newer deep learning methodology in AI, that's something that actually I have one of my students doing a really large experimental study right now to really understand the benefits and the trade-offs in the record linkage space. And I was talking to Peter that we should try to maybe collaborate on that paper, so that with his expertise and my expertise, we can guide the students towards a really good experimental study to try to understand if it's useful. The problem that I've seen in the past with some research and where we've tried to incorporate some of this deep learning methodology is that you might not gain a lot. And then you're actually spending a very, very long time on training your model. And for the kind of data that we have, because everything goes back to the data. And I think, as Peter was saying, we need to understand our data. And the kind of data that we have for training our models is not really the right type of data for some of these new methods. And I think we're at the point that, where we're trying to publish, and, as Peter was saying, we're kind of the odd ones here that, we're trying to publish, and then you submit a paper and, it's very relevant for data linkage, but then you have a reviewer coming back and saying, well, have you tried deep learning? Like, it's not really appropriate for what I'm proposing, but here it is, the deep learning analysis as well, and didn't change anything, but we put it in the paper, and now it's... We got accepted, so... Yes. So I think it's important to be aware of new advances in the methodology, but we really have to take a step back and understand, are they appropriate for our data? Should we take the time to actually use them for this particular task? Because if it's something that is working great and is going to run in 3 minutes, why would you take the same thing that is going to give you exactly the same result, but it's going to take 3 weeks to run?